Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Where I want to start is where I left off in October. We're required as a school district to do a 5-year forecast in October of every year and then update it in May of each year. And really the purpose of that is if there's any major changes between those times, you should update your forecast. Fortunately, there really aren't any major changes. That's always a good thing. When I presented the forecast to you in October, I mentioned that I'd like to be right around 2% conservative on my revenues and 2% conservative on my expenditures. This forecast is right on target with that for the most part. If you look at where we are, this was as of April, the end of April of this year. We're a little bit over 2% more on our expenditures than anticipated. Expenditures are really right on target. We're at 0.23% under on our expenditures. So our cash bottom line has improved a little bit. When I presented to you in October, when you look at our cash balances, which are in the green up there, we have a positive cash balance through the end of the 5-year forecast through fiscal year 20. And I like to talk about it in terms of cash balance as far as how much we have in a monthly expenditure cash balance. Our target is right around 3 to 6 months. We would like to have a cash balance 3 to 6 months of expenditures each year. Throughout this forecast from fiscal 16 through 19, we have somewhere between 6 to 7 month cash balance, and in fiscal year 20, it drops down a little bit to about 4 months. So we're right in that target range we want to be, and that's a good place to be. I also spoke last time on our forecast about our state revenues. I want to go into a little bit more detail with those right now. At the time I did the forecast in October, we were still receiving what we received in the previous fiscal year. There was a new state budget, House Bill 64, that was put into place, but because Ohio Department of Education wasn't quite ready to put out the numbers yet, we were getting funded on prior year numbers. So I'm pleased to say that we do have increases a little bit more than what was anticipated. If you look at this chart, you can see, I want to point out a couple things though. Our overall funding is up about $6.6 million, but if you look at it from a perspective of how the breakdown is, there's a big change in property tax allocation. That's one of the pieces of property tax allocation is tangible personal property. Tangible personal property over time has decreased. That revenue source has gone down from $12 million in fiscal year 2011, which was when it was at its height. It dropped down to $8.4 million annually in fiscal year 2012, and then there was legislation put in place that was to guarantee that amount, $4.5 million through fiscal year 26. Due to the change in House Bill 64, that was phased out even further. For our district, that amount went down from $4.5 million to $1.8 million in fiscal year 15-16, and then starting in fiscal year 17, it drops down to zero. So that's where you see that change in that property tax allocation. There still is an amount of a little over $10 million left in property tax allocation. That's the normal homestead and rollback that we've always had. So that amount will stay. That amount's not going to go away. There's nothing that I've ever seen that's planning on taking that away. So that $10.1 million that you see on this chart right there will stay. Overall, if you look at the two fiscal years in the biennium, fiscal year 16 and fiscal year 17, we do have increases in both years. The net effect after you take out personal tangible tax reimbursement is the $6.7 million in fiscal year 16 of an increase, and then another increase of roughly $3.6 million. So that's good news. The new state funding model, we are on a cap, which means that we are receiving the maximum amount of revenue that we could receive. So that's a good thing for us. We are well into the cap. That is one thing that you need to realize. It would take a very significant change in our student population, a decrease in our student population to come off the cap as it currently stands. I know the state is looking for a way to fund schools to get off of the cap and also get off the guarantee, but there's only so much dollars that can go around currently, so we are in a situation where we'll be on that for a while, I predict.